there are warehouses that were turned into sound stages. So it's not a studio. It's more of a industrial area about 30 minutes from where I live, which is where we shoot the show. But it's a very well-oiled machine, as you can imagine, being on for 22 seasons. And I get to work with some great actors. Gary Cole, who's a friend of mine, is...
Oh, we love Gary Cole.
He's a good actor. He's an amazing... And he's just a phenomenal human being. He's just an amazing man on all levels. He's a dear friend of mine, and I love going to work every day and seeing him.
Welcome to the Sean Squad Society podcast with your hosts, myself, Cindy,
Doris,
Dame Madonna,
where we invite you to share in our enthusiasm and reminisce about all things Sean Cassidy.
From his teen idol days to his recent adventures back on the road again.
Please join us for the stories and memories that connected us to those happy days that helped create the Sean Squad Society podcast.
We're going to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about your career as a set designer, set decorator. First of all, I'm confused, Brian. I don't understand the difference between a set designer, a set decorator. Isn't there a distinct difference between the two?
Very, very, very much so. So in the world of television and film, in the department for the art department, if you will, it starts out the top. The department, I would compare it to like hiring an architect, right? So the designer designs, the designer works closely with the writer, producers, and the writer writes the story, the script, and they create the setting, right? And then they create the budget, and the designer then will hire sometimes an art director, set designer, who actually will build, the production designer will create like a blueprint of the set, right? And on that blueprint, they'll kind of give you an idea where furniture is going to go, kind of like the blueprint of a house for an architect or a building. The set designer will then be brought in by the production designer or the art director, and then they'll work and they will execute all the colors that get the carpets, whatever it may be that's getting put in. And they can even sometimes build a miniature foam core model of that set. So you can actually see it, a smaller version of what it's going to look like. Then the set decorator gets hired. The set decorator is brought in. They create their own budget as to what their budget is and what they have to get for that set. And so like when you go into a house that you're going to thinking about buying that's on the market, it's an empty house. You then get to decorate it, right? You as the buyer pick out what you want, or you bring what you want that you have from your other location. So that's what a set is. When we get a set, it's like an empty house, and that the designer has already, the designer hires a construction crew. They build the actual set on that stage. And we usually look at that blueprint as set dressers. The set dressers are the guys that actually, after the decorator has picked everything out and tagged everything at a prop house or purchased it, we then go pick it up, we bring it to the set, and we dress it in. So we dress it in per what the decorator decides or what the decorator wants. And in some cases, we also work with the designer and the set designer and the production designer. So all of us are in the same kind of under the same umbrella. And in some cases, the set dresser, if the decorator says, hey, just dress that in the set, this is where I want the large pieces to go, the dressers can then kind of get creative and dress in the smaller stuff on their own. And if it's a period piece, you want it to make sure it's accurate with the period. So if you're dressing a 1930s department store, you have to make sure that it's all accurate to that period.
Yeah.
I'm sure you love getting on eBay.
Oh, yeah. And there's also a buyer. And what a buyer will do is they'll go out and they'll work with the decorator. And the decorator will say, I'm looking for, colonial hutches, or I'm looking for French Art Deco chairs, or I'm looking for old stoves from the 1930s. They'll go take photos of all that stuff, and they'll send photos to the decorator, and the decorator will then pick out what they
Oh,
want.
cool.
So
Okay.
That's
the
like
break.
those home improvement shows.
Do you shop?
They
Do you
go-
shop
they
for
go
some
shopping
of these? Yeah.
in these stores. Yeah, I'm looking for this.
There was a show years ago called Trading Spaces. You had like $1,000 and you go and shop and fix your friend's house with that $1,000, and
Yeah,
they either liked it or didn't.
yeah.
But
Those are fun.
you had your first gig, from what I'm understanding, in this career of set. What are you, set dresser?
Yeah, set dresser.
Okay.
Set
Was
dresser.
with Jim Henson? Did you do
Yeah.
the Jim Henson?
I worked on a show called Muppets Tonight, and I had been an employee with the company, with Jim Henson Productions, and I wanted to work in the set decorating department and the art department, and they were starting up a new show called Muppets Tonight, and they allowed me to leave the company because I couldn't stay as an employee of the company and get on the show Muppets Tonight as a set dresser trainee. And from that show, I was able to get into the IATSE union, which is the unions for all the crafts. And from there, I just got on another show, and I just kept working. But that was my first job in the set decorating world. And that was kind of a challenging show, but it was fun because all the sets were elevated for the puppeteers to walk through.
Yeah.
So we had to like put this furniture on platforms so the puppeteers could walk through with their arm raised and the puppet on their arm to walk through the set. So there was a little bit more work involved with that, but it was a lot of fun.
Because nobody thinks about that with the puppet. Yeah.
Yeah. The sets are like, 5-6 feet in the air. I'm saying the bottom of the doorway is about 5 feet in the air. So you're literally walking through it with your arm in the air with a puppet on your arm going through the house or going through the location.
Wow. Cool. So they're all standing when they're using the puppet.
Yeah. They're looking down at a monitor with their arm in the air.
Okay. Interesting.
Themselves. And there's usually a second puppeteer that's doing they've got their arm in the air so their arm is inside the head and their other hand is on the sticks that control the arms. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Monitor to see themselves.
Well, I don't know if you know it, my friend, because you are now our friend, but you have an anniversary. You just celebrated like 3 days ago. Yeah, in 1985, on February 27th, you were first episode on Facts of Life.
Nice.
Look at this. I guess.
Look at that.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. There's the black and white TV guide.
I thought I'd bring that up real quick.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the set designer stuff, but it's in my notes, so I didn't want to forget that you had an anniversary.
Plus your birthday. Let's not forget his birthday.
And you did have a birthday. Oh, my goodness.
Another birthday.
He just turned 29 for the 30th time.
Oh,
Yeah.
us too.
Oh, the 30th anniversary of your 29th birthday.
That means I'm 25.
25. Okay.
Yeah, no. I feel really good. I turned 59 and I feel great. It's probably going to be the 60s are going to be some of my better years. I just feel it. And
good attitude.
Yeah.
Cindy and I can attest.
We're in the 60s club.
It gets better. It only gets better.
I look 49.
I have 53 days till I turn 60. 53 days.
Oh, really?
Happy birthday early to you, John, but we'll be in touch.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
I wanted to ask you real quick, Ryan, going back to the set. So you work right now on NCIS.
Correct.
You also worked on other sets. One of my favorite old shows that I still watch today was The King of Queens. Now, The King of Queens have you have a living room, a kitchen. Sometimes they would go upstairs and they have a garage. I can see those places needing set design, decorator, dresser, all of those things. NCIS has a morgue and a big old room where all
it's okay.
agents are.
They need somebody in there to help them.
Exactly are you designing?
That's called the squad room. I was just in the morgue set on Friday, actually working.
Oh, cool.
I saw a dead body on the other episode I watched the other night. Do you design the dead body too?
No. So that more that's been there before. It was there before I got there. I got there season 19. So I've been there, and we're going into season 23. We got picked up.
Wow.
The main sets there that are the like the principal sets that we're always in is the squad room, which is the room where they have all their little desks at. We're in the MTAC set, which is where they have these they sit and they look at a giant screen. They talk to somebody from another continent or wherever. We're in the interrogation room a lot, and we're in the autopsy room, and we're in forensics a lot, which is one of the principal sets. So the principal sets are called the permanent sets, and then they have wing sets. Wing sets are sets that are built just for that episode. And in some cases, they could be anything from apartments, hotel rooms, to offices, to art galleries, whatever it may be that pertains, that is in that storyline, that the storyline calls for that specific location. In some cases, we're at a location off the facility where we work. We're at these, there are warehouses that were turned into sound stages. So it's not a studio, it's more of a industrial area about 30 minutes from where I live, which is where we shoot the show. But it's a very well-oiled machine, as you can imagine, being on for 22 seasons. And I get to work with some great actors. Gary Cole, who's a friend of mine, is...
Oh, we love Gary Cole.
He's a good actor. He's an amazing... And he's just a phenomenal human being. He's just an amazing man on all levels. He's a dear friend of mine, and I love going to work every day and seeing him.
That's awesome.
Love to work one day with Gary Cole.
So anyway,
Remember him on the Brady Bunch movie? As Mr. Brady?
Yeah.
That was his out of the sequence role type thing he did. Yeah, that's not his usual role.
But
I met Gary because my brother Sean created a show called American Gothic that Gary was.
Yes, we know all about that.
Don't get Dory started. Don't get her started.
That's my all-time favorite TV
Oh, no,
show.
she started.
Well, it is.
It was a good show.
It was underrated.
It was a good show. It was
That's funny.
Tell Gary Cole, if you ever remember that Doris said, that's Buck. Buck with a B.
Buck with a B.
Oh, Buck with a B, yeah.
Buck with a B.
Talladega Night. You ever see Gary in Talladega Night?
Yes, with Will Ferrell. Yes, he was hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Okay. But you do, I guess in my head, and maybe Cindy can agree, we were just thinking a show as different to design, decorate, dress. NCIS has like a very, I don't know, it's dress desk. You got
serious,
desk and a big old monitor. And then you got King of Queens, which is whimsical and funny. And I would which one do you like better to design?
Okay, so King of Queens is a half-hour show. And multicam half-hour shows are done usually in front of a live audience. And all of the sets are on one soundstage. It's kind of like doing theater. They're all little, all the walls are Luan and 1x3. And they're small sets. Generally speaking, they're small sets. And then you put them all together, you line them all up, and then in front of that is the camera aisle. So the cameras can go up and down the aisle and shoot each of the sets out. So on a multicam half-hour show, the way it's designed is that you go to that one stage. It's usually one stage that it's all on. And you block and shoot the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and sometimes pre-Thursday. Then they bring in a live audience to get a laugh track. And you shoot the whole show on a Friday and in front of the live audience. And it's just a different format, different way of shooting. And I like both of them. I think they're both great. I got most of my experience on multicam half-hour shows like King of Queens. But 1 hour shows are generally, for what I do, are a little harder because they're it's not all in one. You're all over the map. You could be like on one stage doing one scene, and you have to go to another stage to do another scene on another set. You're all over the place, unlike multicam shows where it's all on the same stage. You understand?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, very interesting. How they set it up.
Yeah,
back and forth.
I would think like a show like NCIS or any crime kind of show like that, being like a drama, more serious. That I can get, and it's an hour long. Yeah, I could probably get into that, especially if you put Gary Cole next to me. Yeah, I'll be okay.
Yeah, I worked on. You guys remember a show called How to Get Away with Murder with Viola Davis?
Yes.
Worked on that show for a little while, and that was an intense show to work on. First of all, she's a phenomenal actress.
Yes,
and
she is.
I would be watching her do a scene, and I was just mesmerized by her performances.
Yeah.
And that's, when you work on these shows, these 1 hour dramas, you have to be very quiet. And sometimes if the scene requires like some heavy emotion, you really just, let it ride out. But I'm an observer. I'm working there. I'm a worker on the show, and I'm watching the scene unfold. And it's like, wow, this is intense. And in some cases, it's really fun. It's really cool. And you get to see an artist at work,
Yeah, but you were in front of the camera with the other show.
With Facts of Life,
That was your first.
I'll tell you a funny story. So when I worked on Facts of Life, my character was Kevin Metcalf, as you know. When I switched gears and I started working behind the camera in set decorating work, I was working on a show and I was putting up a sconce on a set. It may have been King of Queens, actually. And on some of these walls, these set walls behind the set, they have stencils of what show they were from, because a lot of the set walls get recycled and they're used on another set, on another show. So I was working on a set and I was putting a sconce on the wall, and I see a stencil that says Facts of Life on the back of the wall.
Really?
Wait a minute. That's full circle now. That's really full circle.
Wow. Who put that there?
Yeah, that's full circle for sure.
That's interesting.
Well, speaking of interesting, you worked at the police department? Volunteered?
Another interest.
Volunteered at the police department.
I do. So I had a strong desire to be a police officer when I was growing up, and was always fascinated with police work. There was something about public administration and public working with the public and sort of listening to both sides of a story and trying to bring some sort of harmony to chaos. There was something that I was attracted to with that. And so when I was a teenager, I was a law enforcement explorer, and I was with the sheriff's department. I went through an academy and I graduated, and I rode out in cars, and I got some experience as a youngster. And so that desire never really left me, except that I didn't become a police officer. I went into show business, and the desire never left me. And many years ago, I applied to be what they call a specialist reserve officer with LAPD. And I went through the process, and I was fingerprinted, and they did a little background investigation on me, and I was accepted. And I am now, I'm a specialist. I'm what they call a specialist volunteer, and I'm assigned to a division. So whenever I'm free, which is usually when I'm not working and I'm on a hiatus, I do volunteer my time with the department, and I help them in which way I can. And then I also became a board director at the Los Angeles Police Museum, and I'm board chair of archives and exhibits. So we have some really cool exhibits there, and I helped kind of create the Adam 12 exhibit, because Adam 12 was based in Los Angeles.
I love that one.
Yeah.
And I grew up with Kent McCord, who played Officer Reed in Adam 12.
Yes.
So LAPD and police work has been part of my life, and I respect. I don't like all police officers, but the ones that I've come to know and I like a lot, and I respect. Yeah.
I have a story about a policeman. My dad retired as a sergeant in the police force.
Wow.
And he went through a lot, and I didn't realize what he went through until made a police book. All these stories that I didn't know about, and It was amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing what they go through that you don't really realize. Yeah. So to read this book was amazing.
What department was your dad with?
He was with the Mount Prospect Police Department in a suburb of Chicago. Yeah, he drove P1, which, okay, fun fact, is the Blues Brothers car.
A lot of my friends growing up were police officers. And I just, I'd always just was fascinated with the stories that they would share. And again, the ones that I got to know that were really doing it because they wanted to be of service and they wanted to give back and they wanted to help. Those are the people that I really looked up to. And I think it was also because it was such a far cry from what I grew up with. You know, there was something I admired about going out there and trying to, be of service and help people and then go home. And obviously you're going to see some of the worst when you're a police officer. So it's,
Sure.
I got to experience that as a deputy explorer with the LA County Sheriff's Department. I saw some pretty horrific stuff.
Yeah.
And it made me appreciate my own family, and it made me appreciate just everything. So, I think the hardest thing is that police officers, their hands are tied a lot of the time because they have to follow protocol and how they were trained, and their instincts may tell them to do something else, but they have to do what they're trained to do. And sometimes what they're trained to do is going to be viewed as not right and not okay, and seen as something that's not good. So I think that I just know that from my experience and when I've gone out in radio cars on ride-alongs, I learn a lot, and I try to come from a place of compassion with everything, because there's a lot of suffering that goes on out there, and there's a lot of health issues, but there's a lot of suffering, and you want to be able to find harmony and peace through that and give back in some way to somebody who's not as fortunate. So.
Yeah, my dad had talked some people out of suicide, and those stories I remember the most. That my dad was very compassionate, and the guy had a gun to his head, and my dad had to talk him out of doing the unthinkable. I mean, I think it didn't work all the time, but it's pretty serious business.
I'm glad, Brian, that you went to LAPD and not Beverly Hills. Just because I think, growing up here, I'm living in the Midwest in Chicago. You think Beverly Hills and you think, oh, that's the fluffy foo-foo cops. And then you got the LAPD. No. They're the cops. They're the gritty cops. That's just how we perceive it. And then right now, police just don't have a good, especially in Chicago, the police department, it's just, they don't have a good rap for everything that they go through and do and protect and help and serve and everything else. But then you hear the kind of negative, bad stories on TV, and, they're just not getting the best of.
It paints them out to be bad guys. And it's unfortunate because you don't hear about the stories a lot of the time of the ones that really do save somebody or help somebody. You only see what the media paints. And it's unfortunate. And by the way, Chicago is not the only place where they're getting a bad rap. But the pendulum swings both ways, and it's starting to swing back the other way, I think, where police will start to gain a little bit more credibility, I think.
Appreciation.
But there's body cams these days, too, so,
Yeah, you can't get away without doing anything without somebody putting their hands are tied, because not that they were doing things that were incorrect, but they're to be comfortable in their job and to do it the way that, and sometimes to just be reasonable and just say, this is how we're going to do it. Somebody's going to find fault in it, and they're going to put a camera on. So I think it's slowly starting to change. So
yeah,
hopefully, yeah.
Well, we can get kind of off the subject of the police department. That's great that I'm sure a lot of people never knew that Ryan Cassidy was that connected to law enforcement. So that's really cool that you are.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some silly stuff for a second.
Some silly stuff.
It's whimsical a little bit. Maybe the late 80s, early 90s. Dude, you did a movie. You did an MTV video.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's funny.
With Lionel Richie.
Yeah, Penny Love.
Yeah.
No speaking in that one, but I was pretty facing it.
By the collar, and he threw me against this wall. And he was so cool. And
he seemed like a cool guy.
I was a fan, I was a big fan then. And I went in and I think they put me on tape and they sent the tape to Lionel, and Lionel said, yeah, he's the guy we're going to hire.
Yeah.
I just had to give a certain look kind of thing. And that
there you go. Yeah.
Look at the camera and give this really intense kind of look, and then they gave that to Lionel, and Lionel went through the ones and he liked mine.
He's like, that's the one.
Wow.
The cool Cassidy there in line. Let's pick him.
Lionel Richie's like, that's the one I want right there.
Did he know who you were related to, though?
Oh, yeah. Very much.
Oh, he did know. Okay, he did.
Right. Yeah, he knew everybody in my family.
Yeah.
He was a total gem to work with. Total class.
One of those people that on TV, you think he is the guy off camera who he is on camera. He just seems so nice and fun and happy.
We stayed in touch, and even had dinner or lunch, I think, one day. And he was just such an amazing guy. He had a business degree, so he's a very smart, savvy businessman. And we shared a lot of things in common, Obviously, growing up in a musical family, we talked a lot about music and accomplishments that my family had made, and we talked a little bit about family. And he was just a nice man. Every time he see me, he'd wrap his arms around me and give me a big hug.
Yeah, he looks very nice.
I got the pleasure to see him in concert 4 years ago. We have a little outdoor music venue here, and you could bring little picnics and everything. It's called Ravinia, and people bring wine and picnics. And my friend asked me to go, and I'm like, are you serious? I'm not even. I walked out of there saying, wow, that was one of the best shows I've seen. Lionel Richie was one of the best concerts I've seen. Wow. It was good. It was really good. So I was happy she asked me to go.
He certainly has had a lot of hits between the Commodores and when he went solo.
Yes.
I mean, every time in the 80s, you turn on the radio, every other song was a Lionel Richie song.
Yes, it was. True. Yes, it was.
Yeah, MTV was, it was kind of like when I got that job, and it was my first on-camera job, if you will, professional on-camera type of a job. I did it in one day, and I remember when it aired on MTV, and it was like, wow, that's really cool. I was kind of like, that's kind of a cool thing,
What'd your mom say? Did she like it?
Mom loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
All right. We got another thing to ask you. We know you had a nickname when you were younger. We want to know how you got your nickname.
So my nickname was Charlie, and my dad had nicknames for everybody. I don't know really where he got the name Charlie, but
that's what we were wondering.
There's a few Charlies in my family. So Charlie is something that I think he just, from the time I was a little boy, he saw Charlie in me in some way. I don't know where he created that name.
Charlie and Chocolate Factory? Maybe it was Willy Wonka out those days?
I don't know, because I don't know. But that was my name. Yeah. He addressed all of his letters to Charlie. My brother's
that is so
Charlie.
Funny.
Yeah.
But was he the one that picked out the name Ryan?
I would imagine so. But I would imagine that my dad probably thought of that name.
Nice Irish name.
Yeah.
Dane, what did you want to ask Brian?
He likes old Hollywood, and he gets serious about, displaying old Hollywood things. Well, I did my ancestry, and I found out that I'm related to, and I don't know if you know who she is, Helen Lint, and she's from the 20s, and she was in these movies right here.
I love Al Jolson, the singing.
Oh.
And I found out that she's my cousin, and so I thought that was cool.
Oh.
And I wrote it down here. She's my first cousin 2 times removed, and she was one of the first Hollywood stars for her family to move there. And then Lauren Bacall was wife of my second cousin, Jason Robards. And then Jason Robards Sr. married my blood relative, and Jason Robards is sister with Laurel Robards, turned 80, and I gave her a call, so that was really cool. Isn't that neat?
So Hollywood history there.
I love collections, and I love the Hollywood collections. And you were mentioning that you knew something more about this one, about him.
I have an old Victrola record player with 78 records, and I have several original Al Jolson 78.
Oh, cool.
where you crank it up and it plays the
Yeah.
song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
And it's
like,
got that big old needle and it goes.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
That's neat.
Al Jolson, his tomb is in on the side of the 405 freeway out here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And I remember anytime you'd go to the LAX airport, you'd pass by it. I remember looking at it, always going, "There's Al Jolson's tomb. I want to stop there one day." And I did. I stopped there and took pictures.
Cool. Well,
Oh,
that's
that's
small
cool.
world.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really neat. And then the lady that I called the other day, I said, we're blood related. And your brother, Jason Robards, was married to Lauren Bacall. So I thought that was really cool. So I started collecting Lauren Bacall stuff. And then I found out my cousin was married to a man from Gone with the Wind, too, one of the main stars. And Carol Nye, do you know who that is?
No.
Well, Lauren Bacall married Jason Robards, and Jason Robards' stepmother, was my cousin, but I'm blood related to Jason Robards' sister. And I just thought that was really cool. And then to get to talk to Laurel Robards on the phone on her 80th birthday, I thought that was awesome.
Very
That's
neat.
very neat.
Little
Jay.
Hollywood lineage there for you.
Yeah.
But this is cooler
right?
talking to you. It's awesome.
That's just Ryan.
That's just-
Johnny, come on.
He's our buddy.
I can't because I care.
You guys have been a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you, Ryan.
We had a lot of
can't
fun.
thank you enough. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your afternoon, spend with us.
Yeah.
We had a great time. We did a beautiful tribute to Miss Shirley Jones for her 90th birthday.
Oh, last year. Yeah.
Last year, we did a 2-part podcast episode, and
Nice.
we are planning to do a tribute to Mr. Jack Cassidy this year.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
Birthday's coming up.
March 5th.
March 5th.
Which is Andy Gibbs' birthday, too, in case you didn't know.
Andy Gibbs.
These girls
Yeah.
know all the fun facts.
Gosh.
They're good at that.
Well, on our Facebook page, I'm mostly the Facebook page creator, designer, but
artist.
I have to come up with Fun Fact Friday. So that's how I do a lot of research, and that's how I learned Jack and Andy had the same birthday.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I really enjoyed this, and you guys are just incredible. Thank you for all the
Thank
great
you.
Cindy. For
I
sharing
hope you like our set decoration. We were going to ask
I,
you.
I do.
John, thanks for tagging along.
This
We
is
know
Johnny's book.
we didn't
Thanks,
see a
you guys.
whole
No,
lot.
this has been fun.
Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Everybody, where they can get James Cagney was my babysitter. And even
tell him.
John will let you plug your book also when we're singing.
Found James Cagney Was My Babysitters on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also get it through my website, whenwe'resinging.com, if you want a signed copy. We have signed copies by Ryan through our website.
Oh,
And
cool.
say that again, whenwe'resinging.com.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Thank you, Doris.
That's
Hey,
good.
thanks to all of you. This was great.
Thank you guys so much.
That was fun.
Thank you from the bottom of our Teen Dream hearts. Keep on crushing.
Always believe in magic.
And have a peaceful, shantastic week. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and subscribe to our new YouTube page.
Make sure to keep in touch with us at our email, SeanSquadSociety@gmail.com.
The Sean Squad Society podcast, including past, present, and future versions, and its contents are owned and controlled by the Sean Squad Society. The podcast is written, produced, and recorded at the Borden Studios, and the views and opinions are solely those of the Sean Squad Society podcast. We may think we are always right, but we may get things wrong from time to time, so we assume no responsibility for errors of submission of content.